Welcome to week 3 of EN110 Literature and Ideas. This week we're going to start our 2 week look at dramatic presentations. The book focused mostly on plays, but of course, most of the dramatic presentations you will be experiencing will be on television shows or movies. So I'm going to make certain the assignment focuses on that because that's where you spend most of your time. That said, there are similar concepts in all three forms of presentations. They're useful to pay attention to, and so that's why I am mixing them together in a way that the book doesn't necessarily. Obviously, the readings for this week are there's 3 readings from the book. Um, Hopefully, this will be a little bit easier than it has been for the short story, where you had several readings to get through. These 3 readings are I don't want to say simple, but they are fairly foundational. So, reading of a play, how does reading a play differ from reading a short story? What are things to look for? That sort of thing. Um, the two major modes of comedy, of a drama, a tragedy and comedy, and those are focusing on the classic definitions. And by classic, we mean all the way back into ancient Greece when those people started trying to figure out how drama should properly be done. Now, obviously, especially when you're talking about something that's more than 2,000 years old as a definition, it gets a lot more complicated than that. There's a lot more ways to look at it than just that essential two sides. But understanding those two help you understand all the others. And of course, chapter 48 is about writing a play. Um, Writing about a play helps you understand how you can discuss and write essays about it, that sort of thing. Um, I mentioned this in the week's thoughts summary, which is I chose a movie, Lady Bird, not necessarily because it's my favorite movie. I think there are several excellent moments in the movie, but I'm not a fan of it as a whole. But I chose it not because I'm a big fan of it, but because I think there's a lot of very good writing, very good performances, good direction, all that sort of stuff. That and the obvious skill involved in it means that you can examine it just on that level. One of the things we need to be aware of is saying I like this or I didn't like this is not really an effective way of examining any story we come across. That's a valid response. You never ignore your initial responses, but then you can talk about why you liked it, why you didn't like it, what you think works, what you think doesn't work. And if it is a good story, it just doesn't work for you. That's an important thing to understand how to discuss. We are too often in this world caught up in our opinion as if that is the end all and be all of a situation, as opposed to I don't like it, but here's things that I can see that why other people would like it. That's a useful skill to have, just in general, much less when it comes to looking at other people's stories. And so, of course, there's this overview video, and then these videos of from Crash Course, and then I chose an opening scene video, but there's plenty of clips online on YouTube from this movie, and of course you can watch it on Amazon. I do highly encourage you to watch the movie as well as read the script. The differences are important to pay attention to. So obviously you can go through a little bit more of these thoughts when I'm looking on my summary. The Crash Course theater video is you watch the Crash Course literature video, hopefully, and this is a similar thing. It discusses concepts in theater in more in depth, and the series gets pretty. I mean, it's fairly long and involved series. I find it incredibly fascinating because we as a people, when I say we tell stories, this is kind of how we did it. We didn't originally sit there and write books and read them quietly. It was a communal gathering. It was people coming together to a place, sometimes a campfire, sometimes a theater or amphitheater, sometimes just in the street, whatever, and see a story told. And this is still something we do. I mean, if you ever sit around with friends and talk about what you did over the weekend, or somebody tells you some ludicrous thing from their childhood, that's the same essential thing. So it is a very fascinating tendency we all have, and it's something we participate in. But to give you a sense of how much more complicated studying drama can be, besides just looking at tragedy and comedy, here's the host of Crash Course Theater, kind of giving you a sense of it.
Hey there, I'm Mike Bergnetta, and this is the first episode of Crash Course Theater. Welcome. In the episodes to come, we're going to have it all: tragedy, comedy, history, pastoral historical pastoral, tragical historical, tragical comical, historical pastoral, expialidocious.
and so on and so forth. So obviously, it is a complicated subject and worth a lot of studying. Some people spend their whole life studying it. So here's this shooting script. You should be able to read it if you have a PDF viewer on your browser. If not, you can download it, and almost everybody's computers have one, or you can get the free Adobe Acrobat one, and just kind of get a look at what the script does. The script, this is the shooting script, so it's very close to what the movie is. But the words on the page, including, for example, things about how it starts, the descriptions being used, the actions being used, are give you insight into what's going on the screen. And remember, several people before there's a movie read this script and try to figure out what is going to happen. And obviously, here's opening of the first scene that I was just looking at, and you can see several moments of how they relate to the script and how the script becomes a group project that replaces our own imagination. And then we go on with this. One of the interesting things about this first 3 minutes is it sets up the entire movie, their relationship, their closeness, togetherness, and their conflict. So that's some interesting things to pay attention to. When we're writing essays in general, and you've probably heard this before, especially in high school, or if you took any college classes before you came back to Baker, you'd heard about thesis statements, but they can be really easy to mess up. The point of a thesis statement is it is the promise you're making to yourself and the reader about what you're going to be doing. So understanding it is here is not only the idea I'm discussing, but things I'm going to possibly say about it, questions I could possibly ask about it, directions I could go. And so here's some advice columns about how to do this. I'm a big fan of writing thesis statement first, but I'm also a fan of going backwards. So once you've kind of written out your first draft, and I know most of you write just one draft, but the proper way to do this is write a first draft, look at what you have on the page, kind of make it into a more cohesive whole, and turn that into your thesis statement. And so there's some more writing tips about this. These are all just ideas to do it. If you ever have questions about how to write essays, there are many, many good advice columns on here. I'm also a big fan of the Purdue Online Writing Lab, as you know, and they have lots of advice about this. EasyBib, which is a great service if you ever use it to help build citations, also has a lot of good advice columns. And then, of course, the discussion forum this week. Besides talking about the chapters, you also can talk about when you watch plays, shows, movies, what appeals to you. And it can just be, I think I just want to shut off my brain, have a good time, or I like something that makes me think or makes me feel a certain way, or whatever. Most people have many different reasons for watching different kinds of things. And so you can talk about those. One thing I want to mention is there are a lot of questions from the first week about discussion forums, and we'll see what comes out from the second week as well. If you are concerned about your grading discussion forums, the two ways to do it is one, try to respond to everything. So don't just discuss my prompt, but also discuss the chapters. And don't just give me a sentence or two. 2 or 3 sentences is what you should be shooting for. So each chapter should be 2 or 3 sentences. And your response should be many of you are good at writing a full paragraph or more about the prompt, but having a good response to the prompt is not everything I'm asking for. Um, or having a very long, in depth response to the prompt if you really have nothing you want to say about the chapters. The other way, and this is one I advise everybody to do, is respond. You're asked to respond for two, but that's the basic level. So when you do exactly just the minimum of what I ask you to do, which is give me a certain number of words responding to something from the forum and 2 response prompts, probably you should expect a grade that's depending on how intense the class is, either a C or a B. That's usually what college requires. Most people who do this are usually being thoughtful and usually trying to respond to people in a useful way. So most people get Bs. when they do that. If you want to go over and above, respond to more people. Again, in thoughtful ways. Don't just write a third or fourth response because you want a few more points. Write them because you want to contribute more to discussions. Those are the easiest ways to do get 20 points every week for the discussion forum. And I like them the most because usually, even if people are doing it just to get points, it does spur better conversation and better understanding of what's going on in the class and lets you guys understand each other better as well. Finally, here's the assignment for this week. So weeks 4 and 5 and 5 and 6 are going to be, or 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 are going to be set up like this. So the first week, so for this week, you're going to be doing an annotation and outline. You're going to be, this is the pre-writing. You're going to be preparing to write the larger essay in week 4. So obviously go through this. I give you advice on how to find the movie and things you should look for. And just, you're going to do some annotations. Now, you did annotations for the short story, but here you want to do annotations again, thinking of this is going to lead me to writing my essay. So, and then do an outline, and it doesn't, 250 words is just a suggestion, but you want to break things down. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the characters and how they interact with each other. Why do they love each other so much and hate each other so much at the same time? That kind of stuff. Break it down. It doesn't have to be a formal outline, just a way of structuring your essay in advance so that you can think about the points you want to make. So anyway, those are the basic assignments. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, let me know, and I will talk to you next